Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It is Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, and we are still in free agency. We'll talk about some moves the Birds have made recently. Adam, there's some consternation involved, not surprisingly, because whenever the Eagles make a move, it's either the greatest thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. But we'll get into the Joe Flacco signing because he signed on Tuesday, I believe it was Tuesday, the day we did our live stream.
Yeah.
But we really haven't had the opportunity in podcast form to get into it a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll get into that. I think there are some misconceptions that we'll have to debunk. And then what we'll also do in this episode is kind of reset the table after the signings of Flacco and Harris about where the Eagles go from here, what voids still need to be filled, and we'll talk about why those specific voids are important. Yeah, exactly. So we'll get into a lot. Thought Q&A show was really interesting because they had a kind of a point counterpoint on the Anthony Harris signing, whereas Quentin, who has played safety and was very good at it, liked this. It's not that they disagreed, but Quentin liked the signing of Anthony Harris because he felt it's what the Eagles needed. And you know what? As we discussed on the last pod, yes, it's absolutely what they needed. They needed someone to come in who knows the defense, who can help kind of teach it, but also he's a decent player. So it's good. You have him, you have Rodney, because after that, the depth was not great. But Jason accurately also pointed out, Adam, that it is a good addition, but the Eagles still don't have the kind of safety that is really being used in the NFL advantageously this year, like they used to have with Malcolm Jenkins, a guy who can be interchangeable, play the slot, play the box, play the post, be dynamic the way, say, a Tyrann Mathieu is, or a Jamal Adams, or how Earl Thomas used to be. So it was kind of interesting to hear them both kind of go back and forth on how they viewed the signing, and I think both of them are right.
Yeah. My best source on Harris said he's absolutely post safety. He's not a box safety. He goes, look, this guy played in the league some years ago, but he goes, I don't know. He goes, this is a guy from another team. He goes, look, I saw Philly's tape last season, and we're going to get in. We got some great stuff on the Eagles defensive scheme. Geoff's got some stuff that he's going to put out here later, which you guys are going to love. But this guy said, he goes, if you grade Anthony Harris, you know what he is. He's a smart, tough, get lined up correctly, help everyone else do what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Self-made player. He's a post safety. You're not. You can play any safety in the box if you had to, but he's not. That's not what he is.
Right.
And that's what he'll be. Mostly a post safety here. But here's the problem. Last year, the Eagles played they tried the positionless guys like Jalen Mills and Rodney McLeod also, before he got hurt. He also was being moved around more than he normally would. We'll get to your intel on this, but things are going to change here with this defense. I can't wait, because we had said this after Gannon got hired, that we were hearing there's going to be a lot of there's going to be the big philosophy differences pre-snap and post-snap.
Right.
And I think that's still the case.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely get that sense. There was an interesting remark. So I watched 3 games of Anthony Harris with it before, in the last day or two. And the 2 observations that stuck out to me are that while he's a post safety, as we're talking about, he plays, the Vikings played a lot of cover 2 last year. They also played some cover 3, but even when they play cover 3, a lot of cover 3 zone. So like when you're the deep safety, your 2 corners are dropping synonymously with you. So he was never really like the type of single high safety responsible for choosing each half of the field the way Jim Schwartz's safeties always had to be. So yes, he's a post safety, but he's also accustomed, at least in the defense that he was playing to, with not having to be the center fielder, more like the half fielder with another half.
Yeah, he's not traditional strong, right? That's a fair point. I was actually told that you might see him line up at medium depth instead of all the way back.
Yes.
That was, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's in my notes here.
He plays the safeties a little bit like Schwartz will play a guy 20 yards off the ball. He plays his safeties a little closer.
Right. But again, he's not a box.
But not in the box. No,
he's not. He's definitely not, because there's nothing to suggest that he's ever done that.
Right.
He's just not. But He's here because he knows the defense. He's a proven safety. It's not like, it's one thing if Gannon wanted some backup because that's all that was left, some forced safety. And you go, oh, God, that's who they're bringing in?
Right.
No, this guy's a good football player. And
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, no, good signing. And then, by the way, another weird observation is that like once or twice a game, because most defensive coordinators don't do the same thing over and over, they switch it up. Once or twice a game, they would blitz him off the edge, sometimes in a run blitz, sometimes just to in a
sure.
And he's actually pretty, for a guy who's not in the box a whole lot, he's pretty good at like getting that bend or that edge. Because the running back will be assigned to try to block him in a protection. He's pretty good at getting around him.
He did a little bit. I was told he did a little of that in 19.
Mm-hmm.
So look, the Eagles, we'll get into this in a couple minutes. It's interesting because we're going to break down kind of what they need. And when I was going over what they need, it's going to be music to your ears. They need a young safety.
Forget it. They're not taking one. Not in the first 3 rounds.
Are you sure about that?
I'm going to tell you this right now. This is going to upset some people. All right. I have been so vehement about this that if the Eagles actually took a safety in the first 3 rounds this year, next year, any year, I may just call it a career. I may just resign right there and say, you know what? I have lived to see the Eagles take a safety in the first 3 rounds. That's it. No more inside the birds, Adam. I'm done. I'm going to walk off into the sunset.
What was the line that John Hanson and I had on our fantasy show? We had something like that. If this doesn't happen, we're quitting the business. No, we'd say we're quitting the business. That was it. We're quitting the business. We would come up with stuff. God, this is back when Plaxico Burress was with the Giants. Like, this guy doesn't score this because the matchup was so good. Fantasy, like, there's no way he wouldn't score because he's 6'5".
Right.
And we must have quit the show like facetiously like 10 times. Anyway.
Well, in this case, if this does happen, I'm out. I'm quitting the business.
Right. Well, folks, I need a new co-host. Here's Jeff's email. It's no.
All right. Next week, just to let people know, next week on Tuesday, 6 a.m. will be our first of 6 shows with Greg Cosell, Inside the Draft with Greg Cosell. Episode 1 will probably focus here on the top 6 or 7 prospects because the Eagles are picking 6, and we'll kind of break it down, figure out what makes the most sense, and talk about guys like Chase and Smith and Pitts and all that. And then again, it'll be every Tuesday for 5 weeks up to the draft. And then the last Tuesday will be a recap of the draft. So that's 6 weeks of Greg Cosell. We're really excited about it. He's excited about it. And I know everybody loves it when we have Greg Cosell on our platforms. So we even named the damn show after him. Inside
Cosell.
Greg Cosell. Greg Cosell. Yeah. Sometimes I say Cosell. It's Cosell.
Yes, Greg. I showed Greg the logo. He loves it. Yeah, I think he was kind of surprised.
It's got his name on it. That's why.
What? I'm sorry.
It's got his name on it. Of course.
Yeah. He loves it. He loves hearing himself. No, we love Greg, and the reaction. It is funny. Greg will talk about this every once in a while because, like, Greg will put every once in a while he'll give a scouting report out for free. All the scouting reports can be found at fantasypoints.com. He has a draft guide which you can buy. But he'll put a couple samples out, and if it's like an alumnus, and Greg's a little bit critical, he gets heat. Like, they go after him.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg only goes by the tape. He doesn't know anything about these people personally. It's
the best defense ever. All I'm telling you is what the tape has shown.
Right. It's so funny. It's so funny. But I'll say this: 90% of the comments are strong. And one of the things I really appreciate about Greg and the comments that he gets. People are detracted of certain players when they see Greg's, because they know Greg is the truth teller. They'll actually change their mind and go, Greg, now that you said it, hey, you know more than I do, and they just love him. And can't wait till we do. Like you said, 6 shows. So what we're gonna do is 5 pre-draft and 1 post-draft, right?
That's right. 1 recap. So
awesome.
it'll be great.
Oh man, that'll be great.
We'll get into everything. Certain positions. It won't just be first round. We'll get into small school prospects. We'll get into day 2 guys or good value picks, philosophy of draft. Because Greg actually made it important. He said, I don't want to just talk, break down this guy, that guy. I want to talk about draft philosophy and positional value.
And how one thing I'm going to have him do for us is he's going to explain how he grades tape. I've never done this before with him, but
That's a good idea.
I've asked him over the years, but I know his process has evolved and changed a little bit because guys like Mahomes, because Greg was always drop back passer because he learned from draws. Okay, I want a guy 6'5" with a rocket arm, and he's got to be a pocket guy. That's not where the game is going. You want Greg talks a lot about that term, second reaction plays. That has changed the way not only Greg, but NFL quarterback coaches. Great tape now. They don't want like Mac Jones. Okay, for instance, not very mobile. He's going to get dinged for that. Now, we love the accuracy. He's tough. He's smart and all this. But if you can't move, you're going to get dinged for it. That's going to hurt you by certain teams.
And no doubt about it. It's becoming kind of, an anomaly now to have that just concrete statue quarterback anymore who goes in the first round. You rarely see it. So, all right, let's get into the kind of the meat and potatoes. Joe Flacco signed on Tuesday. We did the Q&A, so we didn't have a time to get like really deeply into it. The contract, Adam, you go through the contract because I don't think it's what everybody realizes it is. So you go ahead and
so okay. Let's put it. First of all, people are complaining he's getting paid too much money.
Thank you for bringing this up first.
I don't know what planet some people are on. It's people who don't really follow contracts. First of all, had they signed him last week, it would have cost them more. The first week, you always pay more money. It would have been at least $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles and other teams, I'm told, slow played it. Like they considered it, and we'll get into who the Eagles were looking at other quarterbacks other than Flacco. But as we detailed last spring, the Eagles were in on Flacco pretty strong, but the neck surgery kind of knocked things out, and then Doug Peterson foolishly told Nate Sudfeld he'd be the 2. I don't understand why he did that. It's ridiculous.
Put it on the list of things that we didn't understand from last year.
I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, to move this forward here, the contract's the incentives are a little bit bigger than first thought, but it's not a big deal. So it's 1 year, okay? Only a 1 year commitment. The total is $7.75 million, but folks, only $3.5 million is fully guaranteed. That's the cash. The rest of it is $4.25 million in incentives.
Right.
What is the big deal?
I heard people complaining that this is way too much, and I thought the Eagles did not want to be in the business of overspending on a backup quarterback. And I'm like, Nick Foles made like $11 million in his last year with the Eagles. That was way too much for a backup quarterback. $3.5 million is considerably less than $11 million. So I don't understand why people don't interpret that $3.5 million as low end backup quarterback money. In fact, Adam, it was 5 years ago, 6 now, that the Eagles paid Chase Daniel almost twice that amount. And last I checked, the market goes up and up and up.
That dude, let me tell you something. Andrew Brandt says, the business of these quarterbacks like Sam Bradford.
Oh yeah,
Bradford's like the Hall of Fame for contracts. Chase Daniel, and I know Chase a little bit. Of course, I've called him Chase Daniels. Never.
Of course you did. You're from Philly.
I know, of course. Exactly. But anyway, he has made so much money for being less than average. Sorry, Chase. You're a nice guy. I wish you well. You're a smart guy.
Oh, trust me, he ain't worried about anybody's criticism.
Yeah, he's so rich. He's made so much money. Kudos to his agent. But look, Geoff just nailed it. If Flacco doesn't play, he only backs up. He only make $3.5 million. That's nothing for a backup quarterback. What are you thinking for? Who are these people who are complaining? Well, it's funny though. I did see on Twitter on Tuesday night when I put the terms out that some people were saying, "Oh, that's nothing," and then you got other people. Flacco's terrible. What are they thinking? I'm like, oh God, the 3.5 is ridiculous. Okay, whatever.
Right. So I think what factors into some people's thinking is that Flacco made less money last year with the Jets, but what they're not factoring in is that he was coming off a procedure on his neck and that there wasn't a big market, right? The Eagles showed interest, as you reported, but they were not, did they make an offer or did they not make an offer?
I know they had pretty extensive discussions, but
right,
because Joe needed surgery, and by the way, an NFL team doctor did it, I was told. So
okay,
so all teams knew that they got the information, they knew kind of where he's at. The interesting thing about Flacco last summer was he was actually throwing. He was allowed to throw in the summer, but he could not take contact. so he could not practice until September. So that's why if you watch the All-22, I didn't see it. I just had a bunch of coaches tell me what the tape looked like, and I had a couple personnel guys chime in. They all seem to agree that he was phenomenal against New England. Like he had not looked this good in a long time. Well, by when he played in November against New England on that, I think it might have been a Monday night. They shouldn't have lost that game. They blew it. Their defense collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
But it was deep shot after deep shot. It was shot play central because he was healthy and he was in rhythm.
Right.
He was terrible against Arizona. That was his first game. He had started 4 games. He played against Denver. Only took 2 snaps. He only made 2 throws. But the first start against Arizona, he was poor. Dolphins, he didn't play well. New England, he was terrific. Chargers, the timing was off. He was fun. He was efficient, but they weren't really. The time was not there between. I was told. I don't. Whether it's Perriman or whoever, the timing or Mims, the timing wasn't there, but he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But every person I talked to said, "Oh boy, he looked healthy and really good against New England." That got him a lot of interest because all you want to see from him is, at 36 years old, where's he at? If he played 4 bad games, he's not getting more than $1 million.
That's the game. Yeah, that's the game I remember watching. Remember how I said I remember watching Flacco last year, and there was a game I thought, wow, he still has the arm strength.
Yeah,
and
that was it.
That was they were winning that. Didn't they lose that game in the last 2 minutes? Or something?
Yeah, they had 2 separate 10-point leads, I think. Something like that.
Right. He's a backup quarterback, people. He has a Super Bowl. I just don't. I've even heard people say, well, why couldn't you just go after Colt McCoy instead? And remember,
oh my God,
the Eagles are not tanking. Maybe some fans are, but Colt McCoy has been nothing but a backup quarterback his entire career. Joe Flacco has been a starter for most of his career, won a Super Bowl. Yes, he's not at the top of his game anymore, but you cannot compare Joe Flacco to Colt McCoy. It's just,
by the way, you're right. And that he's not top of the game, but if you look what happened in Denver, he got the crap knocked out of him. Okay, he hurt his neck. He was not he had no one had an off season, but he literally had no off season or preseason or no training camp because he was not allowed to work with anyone. And it wasn't until his training camp was in the regular season. So
yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
I mean that's people want to beat him up, and it's like. I wanted to get the truth. The reason why I became a reporter is I want to seek the truth. What did you see when you watched the tape? And I got it. I mean, you saw that New England game last year. He was spinning it, man. He looked like the old Joe Flacco in terms of arm strength. Now, what I like to see, and what I'm hoping happens is if we have a training camp, well, we'll have one, but if we have a real one, like for 3.5 weeks, maybe a June camp.
Mm-hmm.
I like to see him, and let's get into the weeds a little bit here.
Okay.
I understand Hurts is going to be the starter this season. I'm not doubting that.
Mm-hmm.
But what you want, this is what coaches tell me. You want a veteran quarterback who's done it before, been there, done that. He's a Super Bowl winner and a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he was a Super Bowl MVP.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah. He was amazing that year.
Well, that stretch of 12.
Yeah.
He never played better. It's just crazy. He was always
Great
an average
timing.
quarterback. Sorry, Joe, but you were just average before that.
Well, come on, be fair. He was a little bit. I mean, he was in the playoffs for 5 straight years.
I know, but that's
a little better than average.
I know, and it's but I'll tell you, his run was historic. He was unbelievable. He put the team on his back. But what I like to see him is have a great camp, and his coaches will tell me, when you have a guy who's done it before, there's a little bit of an edge. Like the starter might be on edge. He knows he's a starter, but he feels the competition in camp. Like there's something, there's some good friction, as they call it, like in camp and in the meeting rooms. And by the way, if Joe's on in training camp and Hurts is having a good camp, we know Hurts is a starter, but he's pushing him, and Hurts is pushing Flacco. That's the kind of competition you're looking for, which is healthy.
Sure. And I know Joe, Joe, he is a very prideful guy. I mean, he walks in just like last year, knowing that Sam Darnold's a starter. I believe he walks into this situation knowing Jalen Hurts is the starter, but I believe in his head, he still believes that if there's some slip up or if Jalen gets hurt or whatever, he has a chance to get in there, play well, and keep the job. Whether that's true or not is really irregardless of how he's wired and how he thinks. And he's always been very kind of straightforward, competitive like that. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think even last year when he signed with the Jets, he said, yeah, I know the deal, but I still think I can go in there and win games.
Oh, I've covered him since 2007. Delaware, Villanova was the first time I saw him play. I went to the game at Nova, and he threw like 3 or 4 picks. But here's the funny thing, and it's although there was a little different here with the Jets with a couple of the turnovers he had. every turnover he had in that game at Villanova, the receivers couldn't go and get the football. They were all downfield. They just couldn't run.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just his arm. He has not, as you said, he has not lost anything in his arm. So now here's the other question, which we got on our Facebook board, folks. If you've not been our Inside the Birds group, I suggest you get on there. And I get the question: will this signing impact the draft or anything else they do? No, I'll answer that for you. No, he's just here to be a backup. It doesn't impact anything.
Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just there. Yeah. But again, I would like to see he and Hurts have great camps where they're challenging each other. Because I've seen this before as I would travel to training camps where we know the starter is, but the backup is having a great camp, and you go, wow, this is interesting here. Like both guys are pushing each other. You like to see that.
You would like to see that, as Nick Sirianni has said before about competition.
That's what he means.
Bringing out the best in everybody.
Yeah,
exactly. I also think, Adam, and I tweeted this, and it's been a rough offseason for the fans. I just like, it's been people are just going crazy with the Eagles in this offseason and the season that they're
in terms of what though? What anything in particular you're talking about? Other than
I tweeted that, that I still would not be surprised if the Eagles used a late pick on a quarterback, because almost every single team I've ever known has 3 quarterbacks. You usually have your starter, your backup, and a young developmental guy. Plus, the Eagles have been drafting, developmental quarterbacks for quite a while. I mean, just 2 years ago, they drafted Clayton Thorson. Didn't work out, but that's what they've that's what they've done. So you would think that a new coaching staff here that is just only has a little bit to evaluate on Jalen Hurts and really only has a veteran backup in Flacco might look to the 5th, 6th, or 7th round for a young developmental quarterback.
What's wrong with that? And by the way, what is wrong with that?
Nothing. But the whole, oh my God, I got so much venom for people. Like, why would you waste a pick on a quarterback? Or why would
ask Mike Shanahan when he drafted Kirk Cousins in the 4th round?
Yeah. Right? I mean, teams do every year. Teams take quarterbacks in the
Ron Wolf, Matt Hasselbeck, 6th round. In fact, Ron Wolf, I remember when he took the former Packers GM, said if he didn't do it every year, he drafted quarterback every other year. He just believed in it. It's just like pitching in baseball. You cannot have enough good ones.
Right.
And what let me just touch, because people seem to be confused with the statement I made about Hurts was never drafted to be the starter. That's true. But what the Eagles were hoping for is they didn't want Wentz to get hurt. Let's just assume the Wentz thing never went south and he was still here and everything was going well. Their hope would be that at the very least that he put great preseason tape together. Obviously, no COVID. But again, man, it's amazing all these qualifiers. But their hope was that over the first 3 years of his contract, he would have put great preseason tape together. Because look, good preseason tape got the quarterback Charlie Whitehurst. That's it. How did I remember that?
Good
Charlie Whitehurst.
Good memory there. Yeah,
because he got one.
Mm-hmm.
He never started a game. He got a good contract with the Seahawks based on preseason tape.
Right.
That was the Eagles' hope, that they could flip him after the 3rd year or during the 3rd year. Or maybe his 4th year before his contract would end. Maybe that trade deadline in October in his 4th year. Well, as we know what happened, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Now he's the presumed starter. But that was the hope, though, when they drafted Hurts. Fill in for Wentz when he'd get hurt.
Yep.
And then if that tape's good and preseason tape's good, flip him maybe for who knows? It could have been a first, but doesn't matter now.
Yeah. What round was AJ Feely drafted in? Was he a 4th or a 5th? 5th, right? Yeah. And look what that they wound up putting him for a 2. He won 2 games for them down the stretch when he had to begin. I mean, good teams.
Yeah.
Good teams draft quarterbacks late in the. I mean, look, I don't want to use the example because it's an extreme, but that's what the Patriots did in getting Tom Brady. Used the 6th round pick on him. Had Drew Bledsoe already, but look what happened to them. So just because one team does it, do you do it? No, but a lot of teams, and you mentioned Ron Wolf. And Andy comes from the Holmgren / Ron Wolf lineage there. Andy Reid was a big believer in it, and it's not a bad idea. We're talking about a 5th or a 6th or a 7th where the percentages of making it in the NFL are pretty low in general. So
and on that, after the 4th round, I don't have the breakdown in front of me. I'm going to try to get it for the draft. The team furnished some of that breakdown that you just talked about. The percentage by round and making it's so minuscule in the 6th or 7th round.
Right.
That's what makes the Brady thing so absurd.
I know. It's crazy. But yeah, it's like, oh my God, you passed on a linebacker for a quarterback. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you're just hoping the guy can play whatever position that it is.
Right. Just
So,
get one of them right after the fourth round.
exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. All right. We will move on a little bit. First, we're going to stop and tell everybody to go check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of all of our Philly professional sports teams. Great content, great coverage for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and also on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. And we'll stop here and get another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you happen to go in there to Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. We promise. All right. So there have been some players lost, some players gained. Our man, Vinny Curry, is not going to be an Eagle again. He gets scooped up by the Jets. He goes up there and signs a 1-year deal. Look, is Vinny Curry a replaceable person? Yes, he's replaceable, Adam. But we've talked in the past about having Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett as starters, and your number one situational backup pass rusher is Josh Sweat, right? That's only 3 guys, really.
Yeah,
and one of
they
them
need 2 guys. They need 2 guys.
Yeah, right. One of them you kind of monitor. I don't know. I don't know if they'll wind up just signing another veteran or just relying on the draft. But if a D end gets hurt, they're kind of in a weird spot because Josh Sweat is not meant to be a starter.
Correct. No, you're absolutely right. So that's certainly something they're going to have to look at. Jalen Mills, he's gone with the Patriots 4 years, $24 million, but he's got a 1-year structure at $6.5 million. Duke Riley signed for 1 year with the Dolphins. He was a special teamer, started half the season. Cam Johnson, that was the weird one where the Eagles did not tender him as an RFA. We're hoping to sign him later.
Yeah, well, he made good coin out there.
I'm sorry?
Well, he made pretty good money.
3 years, $8 million. It's legit money, by the way. It's
more than
if he's decent, he'll make it all. And then Rudy Ford is really only a special teams player. He got good money for a special teamer with the Jags, 2 years, $4.2 million. He's super fast, and we'll see who will replace him. So now the unsigned guys, of course, most of them will not be back. Not all, but most won't be. Nate Sudfeld, I don't expect him back. Corey Clement, outside chance down the line, just because his special teams value. Josh Perkins, non-tenured RFA, I don't see him coming back. Our guy, Richard Rodgers, old Mr. Reliable. He's like the Tim Houck. I don't know if you were covering the team then.
No, but I know who he is.
Right. This is Andy's guy from Green Bay. Every year, he's going to retire. Well, it was kind of more like Vinny Curry, but Tim Houck, somebody gets hurt, call him out, get him from on the farm wherever he was, bring him back. Richard Rodgers, they liked it. Guy did a good job. Last season. Hard to criticize him. Stayed healthy too.
I wonder how the new staff feels about him. I wonder if they would rather give, especially with their cap situation here, if they'd rather just give the young guys that they signed. They signed Jason Kroom last year.
Yeah.
They signed the kid from Arizona, Hakeem, what is it?
Butler. Yeah.
Hakeem Butler. Thank you.
He's still there too.
Yep. And they also brought in the Buffalo quarterback to play tight end.
Tyree Jackson. Yep.
Yeah, Tyree Jackson. So you got those 3. You have Goddard as 4. And that's
Caleb Wilson. I think Caleb Wilson's still there.
Caleb Wilson. He is on a future. That's 5 tight ends. You might draft one late. Like, I don't know. Maybe they just see that Richard Rodgers is not a necessary,
Mr. Standby. Right. Exactly. But they're going to need someone. Once they move Ertz, you've got Goddard and nobody. They're all just developmental 3rd or 4th tight ends. Mm-hmm. So obviously you would have to add one. Now they've got 11 picks. I fully expect them to draft a tight end. It would be an upset to me if they don't draft one.
An upset?
Yeah, because all these other guys are just bottom of the barrel, bottom of the roster guys. Kroom is a 4th tight end. Caleb Wilson is a 4th tight end.
Right.
Keem Butler is a 5th or 4th tight end. Tyree Jackson is a guy that you want to put on your practice squad.
Right. No, that's a good point. You need a good, decent backup tight end.
Yep. Depth, by the way, depth is not numbers. You can have 15 tight ends. If you only have 1 or 2 guys, you don't have depth.
I feel maybe they draft Kyle Pitts, so that might count. But even
don't you get me started? Don't you get the kids started, because people are going to go off if they do.
But
I will tell you,
even if they don't, though, I don't know that they have to. I mean, maybe they draft a tight end, but you could probably sign a guy even in May or June who's a good veteran backup.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll say this: if the Eagles draft Kyle Pitts, I would say, just judging social media, there's no question this is what everybody wants, and I'd say Chase second. The fans are enamored, and I get it. Pitts is special, man.
I sense a divide. I sense the social media younger generation is into Pitts, but when I listen to sports talk, sometimes the callers who tend to be on the older side, they're just thinking narrow-minded. Like they're just thinking like, why tight end? Why? And they think about all the tight ends who've gone.
He won't be a tight end though.
But we could say that to her blue in the face, but they're not getting that message.
You know what? I want to add this. I know we're not doing draft now, but I'm gonna give you a draft nugget. I had an offensive coordinator tell me this. This is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I know everybody's talking about him being like Darren Waller. He goes, if I get him, I'll line him up at X. He goes, I want to play him in a 2x2. I want to play him actually as the inside receiver. He goes, how are you matching us up? How are you going to match us up if we do that?
Yeah, I mean, in a 2x2, if you're coming out with I have to assume the defense is either in nickel or in dime. And if they're in nickel, you got two linebackers. Yeah, I mean, he's going to either draw a linebacker, a safety, or his own type of coverage, a bracket. Either way, it's going to open it up for somebody else. Hey, look, it really doesn't matter. As long as he's on the field 75 to 85% of the time.
Oh, hell yeah.
He's a mismatch somewhere.
And his blocking when his ass has been pretty solid.
That's good.
Which really helps him.
Yeah, definitely.
From the Abington area. So
that's why you like him so much. I knew an alternative.
Yeah, he didn't go to Abington High, but Cheltenham is one of the neighborhood.
Yeah, one of your area. It's your area.
Yeah. Anyway, no, but he's just so unique, man. He's just so unique. I didn't know much about him until late January, and then when I was just digging in, I was like, wow, this kid could be something. I see some fans say, oh, he could be Evan Ingram. I'm like, folks, he's so much better than Evan Ingram even right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you just see what he is now and his upside potential. I'm with most people. Like, you don't typically draft a tight end this early. You just don't in top 10, but he's not a tight end. He's everything.
I agree with you. Now, if I have my druthers here, and we'll get into this obviously when we do draft, if it were between Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts, I had the opportunity to grab one or the other, I would still probably take Jamar Chase. But if I have to take Kyle Pitts out of that and Chase is gone, I'm not going to be disappointed.
I agree. Totally agree. Very fair. And he's a true X. And I've got some intel on him, but I'm going to hold that one actually probably with Cosell or once we dig into our regular shows with the draft.
Right.
Gathering stuff on him because he's a true X, and you have Rager as a Z, and now you're cooking with oil. Now you're looking young and you're looking talented because Rager really to me is a move Z, man. He could be special in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's just not an X to me. He may could play it, and he has, but he's really not at this level.
I'm a little worried about what would happen with Nick Sirianni if he was able to get these guys, because he's going to start going oh man, I can put Rager.
Yeah, I know.
Getting all crazy and explaining and getting the chalkboard out and all that.
Nick, slowly roll, buddy. We're not big press conference reviewers. We're not big like hot take stuff. I know people like talk about that stuff. My comment would be, it's just like 5 seconds here. He just needs to. We love the energy. Just cut it down. After a minute, you had it after 45 seconds to a minute. You don't need to go 3 or 4 minutes into one subject because then you start losing people. Yeah. Then you're like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, turn the play clock on.
Exactly right. Well, no, you have to when you speak, do it with a clock in your head.
That's right. Even Quentin Q&A, Jason and Q. They talked about it on the pod because people are just human beings. Like, of course, we're not judging this guy and predicting his success based on a press conference. But as I said it a couple weeks ago, Adam, the owner said one thing and what you saw is something different. And that's all. That's just the part that's hard to reconcile. It's probably there. We just have to see it. That's fine. It's no big deal. But even, just so that people will say, oh, the media is so tough. Even Quentin, Michael, and Jason Avant admitted to being like, wow, that's a little weird, but okay. That's right. Because everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
Everybody's a human being. Real quick, before we move on from the unsigned guys that you mentioned, do you see any of them probably coming back? Hopefully not Jason Peters.
Peters, it would be emergency, just like last year. T.Y.
No.
I didn't say he's coming back, but it would have to be a special emergency.
No, it doesn't.
All right.
All right, here's my emergency. All of a sudden, they're down 5 left tackles. Like, come on, because if he comes back, he's gonna want to pay.
But he can play guard.
Oh
man.
no.
All right. Throw your daggers at me.
But come on.
Anyway, T.Y. McGill, who's at 50th D tackle. No, I'm just kidding. T.Y. Sorry. No, you're fifth. You're fifth D tackle. He was here the last 2 years, right? I think so. Former Colt, by the way.
Well, he went to the Raiders. Was it the Raiders or the Colts? He went somewhere.
He was with the Colts before. I know that. That's how I heard of him.
Yeah. Nate Gary.
No way.
All right, good.
It's an opinion based on how I know he was received, other than Ken Flagel and Jim Schwartz thought about him. More Ken Flagel.
Yes, the enablers are no longer here. So.
Yes. Now this is interesting. If Maddox goes back to slot corner, which he was drafted to be, now, do they need one more? Do they need a backup slot? Nickel Roby-Coleman and Crayvon LeBlanc are unsigned. So I guess Roby-Coleman was not used correctly. They used him on the outside. As you remember, it was ridiculous. He's 5'7", for goodness sake.
Yeah. I mean, a backup slot, Adam, is your 4th or 5th corner, and that's usually a guy who's going to play a lot of special teams. Yeah. I think they tried to address that last year with guys like Graylin Arnold or who's the other cornerback / safety that they signed and got. Prince. Is he still with the team? No, not Prince.
No, Prince Smith is gone. Elijah Riley is there.
That's the one. Elijah Riley. Thank you. Elijah Riley and Graylin Arnold stick out as.
Yeah, and we'll see about Look, and by the way, we didn't talk about Kayvon Wallace. We'll see. New staff. Very mixed reviews on him around the league. Just running his name by people I trust. People are all over the map with him. And again, he's in a new scheme with a new staff.
Yeah,
he has absolutely no role right now. He's got to earn it. I'm just telling you where it is.
To quote Jason Avant, he said, "I like the guy, but he took some horrific angles to the run last year," which is something we talked about after the year. He was because that was kind of supposed to be what he was more advanced at, the run than the pass. And but again, every rookie, no camp or no OTAs. Sure. I mean, you give everybody a little bit of
I mean, he's just gotta earn his keep.
Right.
He's a 4th round pick. He'll get a shot to make the roster and maybe get in the rotation, maybe dress every week. But we'll see. And Epps is there, who knows the defense, obviously, because he was there in Minnesota.
Right.
So we'll see. But if you look at the remaining positional needs, there's still a lot of them if you really go through it.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah, there are. All right. Let's get into that. But first, Adam, 68 teams started the tournament, and only the best have survived. We got Villanova. They're alive, right? Syracuse, as always, with their upsets. Oral Roberts, of course. Loyola Chicago doing it again for Sister Jean.
How about that?
Unbelievable, right?
How is that possible?
I don't know, but it's great. I mean, we missed it last year. It was so good to have it's so good to have it back.
Awesome.
All the upsets.
Awesome.
So DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of the action. You bet $1 on any tournament game, and if your team wins, you win $100. It's that simple. You turn $1 into $100. It's 100-to-1 odds. So you pick any college basketball team that's still in the hunt for your shot at winning $100, and all it takes is a dollar bet and that team winning their next game. So there's no better way to put your college basketball knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. And don't worry if college basketball isn't for you, because DraftKings Sportsbook offers daily odds boosts on pro basketball, hockey, golf, and so much more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable so that you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code ITB when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 if the college basketball team of your choosing pulls off the win. That's code ITB to turn $1 into $100 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You got to be 21, live in Pennsylvania, be a new customer. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. By the way, I had Illinois winning it all. They get bounced on the first weekend. So
The way it works.
yeah, that's how it goes. Let's talk about some of the team needs that are still out there. You and I are pretty adamant about this, that the Eagles are still going to do things, but that, as you have mentioned many times, free agency just doesn't end after a week or two. It goes on until April, May, June, camp. You can make trades in camp like Ronald Darby, right? You can sign somebody in May like LeGarrette Blount. There's plenty. So what are the top needs right now? I mean, they got their backup quarterback. What do you see as their top?
So I would say number 2 running back for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receivers. I would still like to see a veteran. I still think by training camp they're going to have one. I couldn't tell you who it is. Maybe it's not a necessity right now, but you really, for the locker room.
Yeah, you
really
said
like someone that
receivers. Did you just mean
receiver? Yeah.
Okay, like multiple.
Well, obviously they need a true X. I'd like to see it to be Chase, obviously at number 6.
Sure.
If you and I were running the show, I would definitely be looking at Chase, Jamar Chase. But
absolutely,
I would just like, though, it doesn't have, the guy doesn't have to be a starter. Like I said on the live stream, like a Mohamed Sanu, the guy's just a pro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're getting. It's not so much about on the field production at this point of his career. It's about like Marvin Jones. The Jags brought in Marvin Jones for a specific reason. Young football team. They're rebuilding, a total rebuild. They're going to have a rookie quarterback as a starter. The guy's a true pro. Just one of those kind of guys in your locker room. I think it does mean something. It's hard to. It's not about measuring wins. It's about helping the young guys mature.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me would be a smart move.
Marvin Jones got Anthony Harris pretty good last year in a game for a touchdown.
Good player too, man.
He got behind the double, which is hard to do when you're playing cover 2. But he got Harris turned the wrong way and then kind of put the corner move on him. Stafford saw it, threw a nice touchdown. So he can still play a little bit, Marvin Jones. Definitely.
Yeah, he's 31. Yeah, he's a good player.
Too. Yeah,
good player. We said earlier going to need tight ends. They'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive line wise, they need to get the young guys in now. They need a center. They need to figure out who the replacement for Kelsey's going to be. It's highly likely this will be Kelsey's last year. It's a never say never category about him coming back for 22. Based on structure, they'd have to redo his deal if he comes back. But they also need a guard, so they need to come out probably with 2 linemen. Remember, right now they have 11 picks.
Mm-hmm.
How many D tackles do you think they need? I think they need 2.
Well, I think they should sign one and then probably go for a draft. I mean, out of 11 picks, you got to think
veteran
because they value defensive line. Yeah, I would try to sign a veteran. I think, you'd like to have a number 3 defensive tackle. In the past, you could get away with not because you might play your defensive ends as a D tackle in the pass rush, but I don't think that they're going to be doing that because they're pretty thin right now at the end. And, Brandon's really the only one of the 3 that I've ever seen move inside. Josh, they did do that with Josh Sweat a little bit.
Yes.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
But it wasn't great. And then they put Vinny in there. And then they did a little bit of it last year. But I think they like Josh on the edges more.
Actually, Josh Sweat, before he got hurt in his rookie season, was actually in base. People probably forgot. He didn't get a lot of snaps. But he was just there as a run defender before he started developing as a pass rusher. And they got hurt, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So, no, D tackle is D tackle and D end are both important. I think they they don't need to sign a veteran defensive end because they've got Brandon and Derek has been through it. But although now that Vinny's gone, maybe if they get a guy, I don't know, if you weren't going to pay Vinny Curry $1.2 million on a 1-year deal again, then are you going to pay another defensive end out there? Is anybody out there that's going to take that kind of?
Personally, me, I would draft a DN in the 2nd or 3rd round. Joe Osman, he's a 5th end. He's a good special teams player. It's crazy. They only have 5 guys under contract. Matt Leo is the international player, so he's obviously not going to make it, barring something unforeseen. He's a big guy, but he just he's a developmental guy,
right?
So they don't have a 4th or 5th end right now. So they have to do something there. I'd like to see Ridgeway and Williams battle for the 4th job. Get that 3rd guy as a veteran.
Oh yeah, Williams, that's right, and McGill. Yeah.
Well, McGill's not under contract, so.
Oh, that's right.
And then linebacker. Look, they need 3 guys. The only certainty is this: Singleton will be a starter, barring something unforeseen. T.J. Edwards will play. Avery is no lock to make the team at strong side linebacker. This is just a last gasp effort here to see what he can do. And then, you know what? Let me ask you a question. I know you've got some intel on this.
Yeah.
Maybe could this new scheme that they're installing, is there any way a guy like Avery might be used correctly? Because Schwartz had no idea what to do with the guy. Is there any way that they could salvage him by moving him around, or is there what are you hearing in terms of scheme here?
Well, from what I'm hearing, Adam, that they're going to be way more active up front on the D line than they have been. You know, Jim Schwartz was stay in your rush lane, discipline rush lane. This defense, as I understand, is going to be more, you know, you're going to see a lot more stunting, looping, line games, things like that. Again, that fits in with the whole disguise and where is it coming from that you've been alluding to for quite a while. So in my homework, I heard that. So now I'm thinking to myself, well, then wouldn't that actually be a better usage of Jannard Avery as a passer, as a DN, not a linebacker, as a DN to be in this scheme where he can stunt around bigger guys and use that athleticism going laterally? I feel like them moving him to linebacker when they have these plans to be more active up front means that they probably maybe just don't see him as a fit no matter what. And you know, I don't know. Now maybe he'll blitz linebackers more. Like
that's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping. Yeah.
So maybe like a situational nickel or dime. But here's
or Joker. You move him around.
Here's the problem with that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Joker, yeah, I can see that because you can move him around, but you're still talking about a very select few snaps because at the end of the day, if that's the only
he's a limited guy. Yeah, there's no
if that's the only thing you can do, you're very predictable when you're on the field. You know, I mean, we know he's coming after us. He's not dropping into coverage. He's not that kind of a linebacker. So I don't know. They'd have to really, I think, work with him on being able to drop a little bit and make him a two-way type of linebacker and feel convinced he can do it to want to keep him.
Okay. And then I would say secondary wise, yeah, I agree with your assessment. They need a safety, no doubt about it. They need 2 or 3 linebackers. It's got to happen. Sean Bradley is not seen as a guy who would ever start. He's just a backup. He's great special teams player, great locker room guy. He's a 5th or 6th linebacker. That's just what he is, folks. It's telling you it's the way the league sees him, and nothing's changed.
Right.
Davion Taylor, we just don't know. He's very raw, needs further development. The hope is by year 3, he is their nickel. He's on the field at like 70% of the snaps as a nickel linebacker because he could run.
Right.
The pick will work out if he could be. I call these guys starters. This is the way coaches are a starting nickel linebacker. Then they've got it right. Right. If he's on the field 65, 70% of the time and could cover tight end, that's a home run.
Right.
But if he's not, it's a miss.
Yeah. So here's where I think is the biggest obstacle for what Gannon might want to do compared to the personnel he has.
Okay.
Because obviously linebackers and safety in Zimmer's scheme were so important. That's why he had great athletes like Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith, who last year played way more around the line of scrimmage and box than he had in the past because he's versatile like that. He has a good nose for the ball. Right now, you don't really have that with this Eagles defense. I think when they're going to be in a lot of nickel because that's what everybody is, and they're going to play a decent amount of dime. So when they're in nickel, Adam, they're going to need 2 types of guys. You're going to need your run stuffer because if you're playing a lot of 2 deep or 2 shell, then that puts the pressure on your front 6 to get the job done against the run. So you need a good run stuffing linebacker. I think Alex Singleton showed he can play the run pretty well last year. That's one of his strengths. So they might be set there. But what do they do about that other linebacker, specifically when they're in kind of zone looks or Tampa 2 looks?
Who's your cover guy? Yeah.
The deep middle. Yeah. They don't have anybody that has that knowledge, that experience yet. Now, maybe they can get one who can be a guy who can kind of roam around the field, but also play the run. What I really think they need, Adam, and we should look for is them kind of jumping on that trend of trying to find those linebacker safety hybrids, guys who have good coverage. Unfortunately, that was Nate Gary, right? Because he was a safety in college and a lot, but I'm talking about something better than that now. But a guy who can play that linebacker in the nickel, but has safety type instincts, has coverage instincts. And they're not hard to find, but you're usually looking to draft those guys. But I think that's what the Eagles don't have that. I think Davion Taylor is probably what they had in mind when they drafted him last year. But as you and I have said, this guy is so far behind that just learning, this is more about an intellectual position where you know where to be on the field because you've done it. I mean, his gap is so far to bridge that they've just got to see if he can play linebacker a little bit first.
Give the folks the example you gave in the live stream, just because majority of our listeners are going to be watching this show.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the game now that he made a mistake, mental error, a real bad one?
So it was the Cleveland Browns game
Okay.
where it should have been a touchdown. It wasn't. There was a play action at the goal line where Mayfield rolled to his left and for whatever reason threw the ball about 30 feet over Austin Hooper's head. Yeah. And Austin Hooper was standing there wide, just like nobody was within 10 feet of him. And that was supposed to be Davion Taylor's guy.
Okay, there you go.
Like, hey, he's a rookie. He made a rookie mistake.
Sure, of course, sure. It's good.
But
he actually shouldn't have been playing. Their plan was not to really play him last year, save for special teams. But it got to be the point where they, other than Singleton and somewhat of T.J. Edwards, they just that was pretty much it at linebacker. The Duke Riley was in and out, more of a special teams player. You would hope, because we've been talking about this since we started the show in 18. Could this be the year? I know we're not there yet. We're 5 weeks away, so there's a lot of time. Could this be the year they actually draft a linebacker the second round? Do you think is it even possible?
Here's a better question. What's more unlikely, them drafting a safety or a linebacker in the second round? I actually think it's more
linebacker
after line, but no, I think they've done that. Michael Kendricks was a second round.
Sure, back in what year was it? I don't know, 12?
That was 2012. So but the last time they drafted a safety higher in the third or fourth round was 2011 with Jaquan Jarrett, or 2010 or 11.
Jarrett was second round from Temple. That was a terrible miss. He was only a box player. You don't draft box players in the second round.
Yeah.
Unless you're Jamal Adams in the first round, who's just special in that role with sacks. But then Nate, see, the thing about Nate Allen was this: people forget he suffered. It was against the Giants, a patella tendon injury. He was never the same.
Mm-hmm.
He got off to a good start, and then he got hurt, and he never the same. And then people say he was a bust. He wasn't a bust. He got hurt.
You can't
bust as a guy.
Not be a
non-injury
bust. I mean, jeez.
But no, what I'm saying is a guy who doesn't produce, who's healthy, that guy's a bust. First or second round.
That's fair. Yeah, I meant you can't be a second round pick and he played in the league for what, 6 years, 7 years? Because he went from the Eagles to, was it Miami?
Yeah,
somewhere. Tampa. No, I think it was Tampa. Either way, he played.
But for that, no, it was Miami. But what I'm saying is for the team that they're drafted by, if they don't contribute or their rookie contract and they're not offered a contract to come back, then they're a bust. If they're like Nelson Aguilar was not a bust in any way, shape, or form. He was a disappointment. We don't want a bust. He contributed.
No, not a bust.
People think like, if you don't come back, he's a bust. That's not the way it works. We'll further define that when we get into our draft.
Man, people still think Mike Mamula is a bust, right?
No.
The guy had 38 sacks in his five.
Yeah, and he broke his foot. Mike told me that he had I don't know if it was lift franc. I don't remember, but he said that his foot was so jacked up he just couldn't play football anymore. His foot wouldn't allow him to do it. Because he was the poster child for the combine and the workout, and we're actually going to do an event with him, I think, this year. I've talked. Mike really wants to do it. He was bummed that we couldn't do it because of COVID. He is so into it to tell his story.
That's great.
And we're going to do it. We just have to get clearance.
We do. That would be wonderful to get back out there and do those shows again. All right. So just to put a bow on it, I agree. So they've got Alex Singleton and Davion Taylor, and after. I neglected to mention T.J. Edwards.
Yeah. No, I mentioned him. Yeah, he's.
See, now that's interesting because I wonder if it kind of becomes a battle between Singleton and Edwards to play that that thumper linebacker role, who's going to have to be good against the run because again, neither of them are skilled in the art of pass coverage.
Correct. Singleton's better. Singleton, I'll say this much. Greg Cosell, I remember him saying that Singleton grew on him. He actually was much better. He improved in pass coverage.
Right.
He actually got look, is he great at it? No, but he didn't hurt. He didn't embarrass himself. He actually held his own.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
I do want to make a distinction though. When we talk about these linebackers and their coverage, it's not always man coverage that we're talking about. Running with tight ends all across the field.
Yeah.
Zone schemes are not easy, and the depth of your drop has to be very precise, especially on specific crossing routes or the high-low routes that you try to exploit. No, I mean, you have to understand your spatial awareness for the middle of the field has to be something that's honed for quite a while, or you have to just naturally be very gifted at that. So it's not just about running with running backs and tight ends and athleticism. If it were just that, Davion Taylor would probably be really good because he can run with pretty much anybody. But there's so much more to that position and the experience.
Instincts. You got to have you got to have instincts for it. Edwards has it against the run.
Absolutely.
Singleton is a smart guy. He's got some athleticism, but they're so limited linebacker. This is, no offense to these guys, they're doing the best they can, but this is, if you're graded 32 sets of linebackers around the National Football League, they're at the bottom. That's just the fact.
That's the truth, Ruth. All right. That'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. You can check him out on his YouTube channel. It's called Sports Talk with Broads, and you can find him on Twitter at Broads81. And of course, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.